In a small peaceful town in the eastern part of Nigeria, there lived a young man called Peter. Peter was a strong and gentle young man with a vision of becoming an engineer. Everyone in that very community admired Peter for his hard work and dedication to the future he visualized. Peter's grandmother owned a very big farm where they hired paid laborers to work on the farm during the planting season and harvest period. Peter was a student, but he assisted the grandmother in buying seedlings, pesticides, herbicides, and hiring other farm equipment needed in the farm. His grandmother worked so hard before they got to the stage where they no longer have to till the ground and plant by themselves, so they outsourced the strenuous part of the work to farm laborers. The grandmother was a seasoned farmer, but Peter does not really fancy the whole idea of farming. But because that was their major source of livelihood, he had no other choice but to join the business. His parents are late, so his grandmother was all he had. Peter never saw nor met his biological parents. His grandmother had been the one taking care of him since his childhood. Grandmother ensured that Peter wasn't lacking anything as a child. She always made sure that Peter was well fed, well taken care of and educated. He attended one of the best primary and secondary schools in town. Grandma loved her grandson so much. He lived in the town where he attended the state polytechnic, but he goes home most weekends to assist his grandmother in the village. One of those weekends, he traveled home as usual, and he had to go to the farm alone to supervise the workers. His grandmother wasn't feeling too well and was placed on bed rest, so Peter had to go to the farm alone. He attended to the crops and seedlings and was done with supervising the workers and every other thing that needed to be done. It was evening, and he paid the workers their daily wage. Peter was hungry and tired, and all he needed was to go home, eat, bath and rest. So he was surprised to see his grandmother standing under a tree where they usually sit to relax before continuing with their work. She walked up to him and asked him to follow her. She began to show him the boundaries of the farm, then she went on to tell him the different species of seedlings that produce better results. She also told him the names of the people who they supply their farm produce to, the current prices of farm produce. She kept talking till he got angry and told her that he was hungry and wanted to go home, that they could continue the discussion at home after he had eaten, bathed and rested, but Grandma ignored him and kept talking and talking. Finally, she agreed for them to go home. They walked on in silence, unlike the grandma who loves talking and cracking jokes with him. When they got to a broad road, Grandma said that she wanted to greet a friend that stays down the road. Peter was too tired to argue with her, so he agreed to go home all by himself. After all, their house was not very far. He had taken just a few steps when his grandmother called him back and said. Peter was so upset but didn't want to let his grandmother see it. He comported himself. "My son, when you get home, go to my room. Inside the cupboard beside my bed, you will see an empty Stella pomade bottle. Inside that bottle, you'll find a bunch of keys that I tied inside a nylon. The two big keys there are the spare keys of the front and backyard doors, while the smallest key is the key to my trunk. The trunk is under my bed, you hear me?" Peter asked the grandma where exactly she was going to, that she was telling him about spare keys and empty pomade bottles, but the woman told him to hurry along, that she will soon join him. He hurriedly got home hungry and tired. On getting to their house, Peter could not believe his eyes that the woman he spoke with a few minutes ago was dead. He was overwhelmed with pain and confusion. He rushed to shake his grandmother's, which was still lying on her bed, but he was stopped by the sympathizers that had gathered in the house. That was the saddest day of his life. That night, he found it difficult to sleep because everything looked so surreal and unbelievable. One minute, he was talking with his grandma, and the next minute, grandma was lying lifeless. She was later taken to the mortuary while some sympathizers stayed back in the house. Now, here's the story. Grandma was never married, but she got pregnant by her lover, and later gave birth to a baby girl, her only child and daughter. She raised the child alone, trained her in school till she got married. Sadly, the lady and her husband died in a ghastly accident, leaving behind their 3-year-old son, Peter. Grandma raised her only grandchild just the way she also raised her late daughter. That grandchild was Peter. Grandma's father allotted some plots of land for her when he was still alive. His only brother was not happy because he wanted everything for himself, but the old man was wise enough to leave an inheritance for his only daughter, the grandma, and it was on that land that Grandma built her simple house, started her farm, before expanding to buying farmlands in other places in that very community. So that day that Grandma died, Peter could not sleep. Even though he sat on the cement floor in Grandma's room, sleep eluded him. Coupled with the noise and low chat from the sympathizers. He lay on the floor, but around midnight, he saw a silhouette pass through the room and moved straight to the cupboard beside Grandma's bed. That was when he remembered the empty bottle of Stellar pomade, and the keys that Grandma mentioned to him. He turned immediately, only to see that it was his granduncle that was searching the cupboard at that odd hour of the night. Then it dawned on him that the contents of that empty bottle must have great value. He watched as the man tried without success to get to where Grandma kept the empty bottle. The cupboard was filled with ceramic and stainless plates, cups, jugs, and even tumblers from the early 70s. You know how old women collate, arrange, and store all those items of value. Most of those items, especially the brown breakable plates, were bought even before Peter's mother was born. The old man later left the room without accessing the empty bottle. Peter later slept off, but suddenly woke up because he dreamt that his grandmother was chasing him, asking him to go and bring the empty bottle. When he woke up, he quietly went to where the empty bottle was kept in the cupboard, retrieved the keys and kept them safe. Some of the content includes land documents, receipts of anything of value that Grandma ever owned, bread labels, bicycle receipts, love letters from Grandma's daughter's boyfriend, tobacco, camphor, and of course plenty of money, and other things. Peter was never aware of his grandmother owning large acres of farmland of such great value. That was maybe the reason why his grand-uncle wanted to get the keys. He suggested selling off the clothing fabrics he found inside the trunk, but was advised by his childhood friend to save them for his wife and children as those original George materials can no longer be found in the market. Peter still sees his grandma in his dream anytime he is faced with a challenge. This is a grandma story.